fate is before you. Choose wisely. What happens when men don't get their needs met? In behavioral modification, in order for a person to get their needs met, there must be a process called active listening. When men are active listening, or when women are actively listening to the desires of their husbands, then the outcomes in general, or the outcomes of relationships, are normally positive. But however, there's been a countercultural movement where men appear to be divested. And there have been smaller groups such as SYSBM, MGTOW, IPMOR, and even a smaller group, BMO, where men are actually exercising their options due to the conditions that exist within the contextual framework of the United States. Often men are seen as the scapegoats in America. And scapegoat is an ego defense mechanism where one person is blamed for problems instead of the other person looking within their self. And because of this, these countercultural movements have appeared and blossomed, where men are no longer taking the abuse, the mental anguish, and the shame. When people don't get their needs met in behavioral psychology, they often go in a negative direction. So I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this show as you look at the contextual framework, as we look at the elements associated with why men are going their own way. Dr. Helen Smith talked about it in the past, but unfortunately many, especially in the therapist and counseling field, are not listening to the concerns and the pain of the American male, especially the Black man. I want you to sit back and relax and enjoy this show. And I want you to look at the two elements from Manhood Highlights Daily, and also from the show that I did with some of the brothers from BMO. And I want you to form an opinion. Why are men going their own way? And if men are going their own way, what must we do to get men back within the confines of relationships? Or is it too late? And remember this, if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. Family, male mental health, and understanding female psychology is part of those 7 elements in order for a man to become optimized. Can a man become optimized in the United States? You decide. Be well.
It's a hard thing to admit, but it's understandable why they would choose to go their own way. And that's what's scary, is there's actually a rational reason why they would do that.
Men going their own way. And you can think what you want about it, but this is a really big problem for women, for us, for our future, for families, for you to find a partner. If a population of good men are walking away because they're fed up with women.
If you're being told all your life that you are bad and wrong just for being a man, and that you have toxic masculinity for being a man, and that, women, there's this famous expression that, a woman needs a man just like a fish needs a bicycle. And that men are basically useless. And that men are terrible, and that, women are superior.
Our society is very callous towards men. The only message most men hear in the world is that they're a bumbling buffoon. The TV shows are full of idiot men. Commercials show men as buffoons. The society is against them. All they hear about is what idiots men are.
It's the mass of women that are taking over the culture and representing women. They're loud. They're mean. They say they want equality. Why are they not protesting in the streets for the changing the laws for alimony or child support or child custody? Because they don't want equality. They want superiority.
The male gender has more of a slave state, and it's because men are now subjugated to the law and to women, and nobody really believes it, except the men who go through, say, the court. But most men think that they're exempt from that until they end up in a bad situation.
So for a lot of the men, and a lot of them have gotten screwed over in terrible relationships and divorces, and gotten their kids taken away from them. So it's an understandable response.
In the United States of America, as a man, you can't speak up. I think most women tend to be very, I'm stereotyping, but they tend to be more collectivist. They tend to sort of be more in that socialist mindset. So I don't know that you're going to see a huge change. I think the change will have to come from men.
The lives of women will not change until the men get the opportunity to also examine and define and change their lives. In many ways, I sometimes think that the 20th century was the century where the women made all these massive changes, and the 21st century will be the changes that the men will make, partly in adapting to the changes that the women have done.
And those men are doing something about it. They're saying, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm not getting married, or I'm divorced. They don't sit around just trying to live their life through women. They actually have lots of hobbies. They go out, they buy that land you were talking about. They're out there getting motorcycles. They're having a good time, and they're enjoying life without having to deal with the stress of the women and the society that tells them they have to have a woman in their life.
How would you feel? I mean, you know, you're not going to feel that attracted to a woman or care to be loving towards her or romantic towards her. So this men going their own way is a reaction to that. I really think it's a rational reaction to that. Men are finally like, hey, we've given you all you want. You know, you are equal in every way, and then you're still shaming us.
Well, I guess for me, you know, of the three women I was married to, two of them were amazing. No, I'm not going to take anything from them. They were amazing.
Yes, sir.
I just wasn't ready for marriage. You know, 24 years, all of my marriages occurred in my 24 years of military service. So did all of my divorces. But what I learned later on in spending so much time by myself, you know, when the whoring days and the player days and all that stuff was over with, I started to really look at myself and what I appreciate most in women. But I started, and it's such a struggle, brothers, that as I become more and more enlightened, and somebody said it in here, we're not abandoning the Black woman, we're divesting.
Divesting, right.
Yeah, and that blew me away, you know, because, you know, it's as I become more enlightened, I realize I don't think she's here because of the way she's been culturalized, the way she's been groomed. You think about it. El Guapo said his woman was raised to be a wife.
Right.
Where many of our women now are raised, you know, I heard a brother say the other day, look, I raised my daughter to change her own tire, to be independent. And I'm thinking, you raised your daughter to be alone, is what you just said to me. So I think for me, what I learned is that we talk about the submissiveness of women, but I think about it, most of us go back to if we were raised in church, most of our pastors were men. And they talked about the submission of a woman, but they never talked about our submission to them. And that's something that I learned, that my woman's will should be executed by my hands.
Right.
And that's pretty much who I'm looking for and what I hope to find at some point.
What have you learned, Horn, about travels overseas, and you've traveled and you've seen beautiful women from different parts of the country? What have you learned in that experiment? How has it been beneficial to you and your psyche?
Well, I can definitely say, and being real brief, I had a German woman tell me a couple of years back why she appreciated Black men so much. She made the comment that, you know, Horn, if I give you cologne and you wear it on your skin, it'll smell different than on a white man's skin. You know, what I learned in traveling overseas is that what somebody said, as Black men, we truly are seen, and I don't want to use the word the prize, but we truly are seen as valuable. You know, one of the brothers said it on the trip that we just came back from Brazil, is that the only time we're Americans is when we leave America.
Right.
When we're in America, we're Black Americans, we're Afro-Americans, but when we're overseas, they recognize us as Americans. And I think as our Guapo's wife said, that we are appreciated. And we have to be good servants, and we have to be good ambassadors. You know, when we go overseas, it can't be about the B's and the H's and the bad behavior, because we have to be good ambassadors. And that's what I learned. And I think that many women from overseas are attracted to us when they see us as good ambassadors.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. You know, Eric, you know, most women consider you handsome. I think you touched upon it a little bit earlier. But when you get your next wife, what have you seen in a Brazilian and women abroad? I mean, you traveled to Thailand. I want you to talk about the experiences of how Thai women actually look at American black men. But when you get married again, what qualities are you looking for in your wife that can actually bring you peace? What are you looking for as it relates to peace in your next wife, Eric? And how do Thai women treat black men in the confines of that country?
Well, hold up. First off, I don't have first wife, so I've never been married.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I meant to say first wife.
When you said next wife, like I got first wife.
Yeah, well, first wife. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
go ahead.
I mean,
right.
It's very, for me, I think I break it down very simplistically.
Right.
You know, you got to have the 5 F's. You got to be feminine, fit. You got to be able to cook food.
Right.
Be friendly. And be fornicating. Ain't gonna be holding it hostage. When I'm ready to beat the brakes off, let's go. All right. You know,
right.
And it really is that simple, because that encompasses everything, you know, and they're not used to seeing black men in mass. Right. So for them, it's like we just stepped out of a television, you know. And Thailand, it's even more so. If you think that you have a huge following and admiration in Brazil, you go to Thailand and you'll be blown away. Right. Really. And brothers, they've been going to Thailand, but like I said, it's a different experience when you travel in groups of 10 or more. And when BMO rolls up, it's like, who are these guys? Right. Because they tell us we're not used to seeing African-American men travel in packs. So their response to us is overwhelming. I mean, we were in Thailand and we were attending a Muay Thai fight, and we wanted to take a group picture outside of the stadium. So we gathered together, and there were some Chinese tourists there. And one lady, she just couldn't help herself. She just wanted to run up and take a picture with us. So we told her, well, hold up. Let us take the group picture first. Then we'll allow you to come in and take a picture with us. So once we did that, I kid you not, all of them rushed us. From the time we got finished taking pictures outside, almost to the time that we were seated. They wanted to take pictures with you. They wanted to talk to you, whatnot. And it's just, for African-American men, it's a bit overwhelming. Right. You know, it is. And the funny thing is, you know that we are celebrated and appreciated when you have Africans trying to perpetrate themselves off as being American. I mean, right. In Thailand and in Brazil, you know, I've heard it plenty of times. You know, you have African guys that try to pass themselves off as African-American. So it's something unique to us versus just being having the same complexion, you know. And guys in the United States just are not used to that. They're not used to it, right? We're torn down, and when you go someplace else, you're celebrated. And they tell you, oh, they just want you because you're American and you got your money. But you know, as all the guys here on the panel saw, when we were in the club, you know, you got guys that had a multi-millionaire. He's sending us bottles. He spent 20 G's on us, right? And it's still in contact with a couple of members in the group. So what is that about? That is about because they have admiration for you and they want to be around you. You're curious. And a lot of black men suffer from that. Yeah, they suffer from it because we don't get it here. And when you get it overseas, it can be overwhelming. Yes, sir. I totally agree. Corey, to parrot what Brother Spencer was talking about, how did you suffer in silence? And what did you find to be alluring when you went on the sands of Brazil? And Ken, you've been quiet. I want you to come in and parrot the discussion as well. So how did you suffer in silence, Corey? You know, you're well established. You are an anesthesiologist. You're a doctor. How did Corey Henderson suffer in silence as it relates to dating in America? Are you there? Hello?
Corey, Ken, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, so Ken, I think Corey, I don't know what happened to Corey. He must have went to sleep, but Ken, let's talk about how did Ken Hiawatha suffer in silence. And so on this last trip, I interviewed you about the beauty of Brazilian women and how feminine they are. How did you suffer in silence living in Alabama? And how are the women in Alabama in comparison to the women from Brazil based on what you've seen?
Well, I would say me suffering silence here stateside, it had a lot to do with my profession. Like I said, I'm a photographer, so a lot of times I'm meeting all different kinds of women. But at the same time, you know, I guess you could say I'm like a starving artist. I'm trying to catch my break. And up until that time, you catch your break, you know, nobody really checking for you. You know, you got to be the top. You got to be first place. You can't be second. And so with that being said, you know, I'm trying to be victorious just based off just running my own marathon, knowing that once I do catch my big break, it could be zapped if me making the wrong decision with the wrong woman. So that's why I think henceforth I'm very cautious on women stateside, and especially who I deal with here in the state.
So what did you see different, Ken? I mean, I don't know if you addressed the question, but what did you see different in you know, like in the vibrancy of the femininity from Brazilian women based on the American women? How were your energy levels? How was your masculinity risen based on being around feminine women?
Well, I think, you know, that's an interesting question. I think just me being in the presence of Brazil is almost like they could, the Brazilian women, they exploit that masculinity in you. They the moment you get off the plane, it's almost like they could smell it. They see you coming a mile away, and they're drawn to you like a moth to a flame.
And how was that beneficial to you psychologically when you sit in the presence of a feminine Latin woman versus dealing with some of the toxic behaviors in America?
Well, it was very refreshing. I would say that. I would say that much. It was very refreshing.
Right.
You know, I'm still wet behind the ears, being this my first time out of the country. But to experience it firsthand, you know, it was like a movie. You know, like I couldn't, you know, if I told people and then to explain what went on, you know, they wouldn't believe me. You have to experience for yourself.
Some say, Ken, that it's better later. Is that true? Some say it's better for a man as he gets older and later in life. Tell the audience how and why that's true.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think, you know, just from experience, you know, you have a lot of late bloomers, is what I call them. I consider myself a late bloomer. I was fortunate enough to just make the right decisions. You know, don't have no kids out of wedlock. I never been married.
Right.
And sometimes you just gotta just be patient and just have a game plan and just stick to it, and you'll have your day.
Powerful. I want to swing it back to you, classy young man. I believe that's Corey. So Corey, unmute yourself, and I want you to share once again. How did you suffer in silences in the past? I mean, you will be considered a god in many countries. You are a doctor, but once again, you live in the confines of LA. It's a very different culture. But how did Corey Henderson suffer in silence, and how has Brazil and traveling been a life-changing experience for you?
Well, to try to compare the two, or contrast, excuse me, in the country that we live in right now in America, it reminds me of that movie, No Country for Old Men. That's how I felt. It felt like, you know, I couldn't present my masculinity in a country that frowns on it in today's society. However, being in Brazil, it didn't heighten my masculinity. It made me wanted to do more than what I was doing here in America, especially with the way the women treat you. They make you want to go and run into a brick.
Right. Are you there? Are you there?
Seems like you might have dropped off.
He dropped off. All right. So you know, Teddy Pendergrass made the song called "You Inspire Me." I don't know who's the brother to the top. It's one of the avatars of Blind. How was the Brazilian trip beneficial to you? That's the avatar right beside Eric. I don't know who that is. Is that Corey? I don't know who it is. But how was the Brazilian trip inspiring or awe-inspiring to you? I think he dropped off. Let me see if I can get Corey back on. So Horn, you know, you're aware of travel. You're an educated brother. You know, you're a clinician like myself. Why do you think so many Black men suffer in silence, and why is mental health not more or less benefiting Black men, in your opinion?
Well, I think we suffer in silence because we are by the sins of our fathers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of us were raised to endure pain. That pain is masculinity, whether it be emotional pain, whether it be physical pain. You know, if you go to the playground today and you see a little boy that falls on the ground and skins his knee up and runs to his daddy, and he's crying. Daddy says, "Hey, quit being a little girl and toughen up." The little girl falls off the swing, skins her knee up and runs to her daddy. He picks her up and says it's going to be okay. So I just think we've been taught to suffer in silence, you know, and but we have to unlearn. As when I was a drill sergeant, when privates would show up, and I would always say, "Private, you are going to unlearn everything that you've ever known, right? I need you to," and some substitute superlatives to go along with that. But I think we suffer in silence because it is what we have been taught to do.
Right.
That we suffer in silence. And that's one of the reasons for our dysfunctional behavior. It's one of the reasons for why we oftentimes relate to each other as men, to women in dysfunctional ways, because in silence we suffer. You know, and going to, you know, like this is my first true group trip. I've been traveling this earth, these trips by myself. And you know, shout out to Brother Eric, to Coach Breeze. Man, I mean, I'm in two fraternities, a military fraternity and a D9 fraternity.
Right.
Even in those, I was just blown away.
Right.
How there was no competition. No man felt like he needed to be in competition with any other man. I think about Big Sexy when he was over there. For those of you who remember Big Sexy, nobody did him. Big Sexy said, "I'm gonna do my thing the way I do my thing."
Right.
And I remember writing that down. I'm gonna do my thing the way I do my thing. And it's on and popping from there. So I thought.
Well, you know, I think it's very important that we have these conversations. You know, and theology says, in a multitude of counselors, there is safety. And, you know, there are a lot of frustrated men. You know, Al Green said it perfectly, from frustrated 1, frustrated 2, and on the horizon, frustrated 3. That a lot of men are suffering silence. And I do these shows because I think men need to hear and understand that there are other men just like them that have suffered in silence. And I do these shows to give men a semblance of hope so that they don't continue to have to suffer long term. So, you know, these shows are very important because we need the fraternal order of the brotherhood to compare notes so that men can see that they don't have to suffer in silence and they can get love, joy, and peace outside the United States. Corey, are you back, brother? Are you back, Corey? Corey, come in if you're there, brother. It's a lot of static. Are you back, Corey? So until Corey come on, Spence, you started the movement with BMO back in, I think, 2017, right? Is that true? Yeah. So I want you to tell the audience why world travel is so important, and I want you to tell them about some of the things they need to look for traveling in a foreign country.
Well, I think it gives you traveling gives you a different perspective, because everybody thinks that the United States is the end all be all and it's so great. You know, the United States is great for making money, but we have our problems too.
Right.
You don't have anything to compare it to. You think everything is the best here.
Right.
So when you go to other places and you see how other people live and they're doing just as well as you are or better, then it kind of gives you a bigger outlook on the overall world and your place in it. You know, like I said, I've been to 28 countries, and you know, it just, at a young age, I was able to see a lot of things that when I came back home, my peers just didn't understand. I couldn't talk to them about that.
Right.
You know, and it changes you, you know, and I think as you travel later on in life, it does even more so. It gives you more of a perspective, because when I was traveling, it was in the early 90s. So we weren't as connected as we are now. But now with all the technology and everything going on, you know, it's important for you to travel because you see that things are different. You can live a better life. You can have a different ideology. You can be respected and stuff. And that when you come back to the States, I don't have to put up with this. I don't have to take this subpar abuse. I don't have to take this treatment. And I don't have to suffer alone either, because there are brothers out here that share the same thing. They travel and they're going through the same thing. So, you know, you meet brothers that you never would have met before traveling. So it's just an overall enhancement to things, and it gives you a chance to have a different outlook on your life and life in general.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Corey, are you there, brother? Are you there? Is that Horn? So Ken, back to you. You know, unbeknownst to me, the interview that I did with you did extremely well on my channel. The young lady that you were in picture with, what did you like about this woman? She came up to you, she started speaking to you. You got a lot of publicity on Facebook because so many people started saying you guys were a beautiful couple. But what was it about this woman that you felt to be very alluring?
I think it was just the natural presence, her natural aura, you know, natural curly hair, you know. I don't even think she had any makeup on when I met her. No eyelashes, you know, no fake contacts. It was just all natural, man.
And so, you know, there was a lot of consternation here recently about the bonnet brigade. And, you know, Monique, you know, was more or less trying to give young women corrections about wearing bonnets, but she got a lot of negative feedback from it. You know, you live in Alabama. How does that bonnet issue more or less cause you distress as a man? You know, I think you and Horn both live in Alabama. And so seeing women in bonnets, I want you guys to tell the audience, does that raise your masculinity and your testosterone levels, or does it frustrate you?
Hey, Horn, I'll let you go on that one.
Okay, well, it's funny y'all would mention this bonnet brigade stuff.
Right.
Being that I'm not a big social media guy, and I kid you not, when I got back to Miami, I saw a young lady with the pink bonnet on and the bunny tennis shoes. Just the other day, I'm at Home Depot. I see a woman walk. I hadn't even paid attention to this, but it brought back to something that my dad. I didn't have any sisters growing up, but my dad would tell our female cousins that a ponytail is a lazy woman's hairstyle. So I will have to say that not this whole bonnet brigade stuff. It blew my mind when I also think we might have to look at this. Maybe some of these women are doing this in protest. I just never noticed, but now I'm seeing women wearing this. But I will say this, being in Brazil or Colombia or DR, most times when you see women out, they have a certain amount of respect for themselves. Ken brought it up. Most of the women that I've met in Latin American countries, I've never seen them with makeup on, and they don't need it. But I just think that it's about, you know, self-respect. If you leave your house dressed in your sleep attire, then what do you expect? You know, you don't show up at your job like that, I hope. So I guess my thought with it, and living here, and I'm not from Alabama. I retired in Columbus, and I live on the Alabama side. Columbus, Georgia, live on the Alabama side. But being here in the South, I have to say, one thing that traveling overseas has really enlightened me on, and I don't mean this in a bad way, the laziness, the lackadaisical attitude of many of our women in their overall appearance, with the exception of if they at the club, you know, or maybe at the church. Outside of that, the lackadaisical attitude of many of our women is just simply undesirable. After you spend so much time away seeing what natural raw beauty looks like.
Yes, sir. Right. And you know, I tell people, man, you know, I did it from a clinical perspective because there's science behind a feminine woman and raising a man's testosterone levels. There have been studies, guys, that say that men in marriages live longer. Then that's a misnomer. I would say that men in happy marriages live longer if they have feminine women that actually raise their psyche and give them peace. But when a man is in a negative relationship, in according to the scripture, it said that a quarrelsome and a contentious woman will run a man on to the rooftop. And so I did this show to more or less highlight, can a woman be his peace, which is his helpmate and his rib, but also can she be his peace? I want to ask Eric Spencer a question as we are about to sign off in a few minutes. Is Eric Spencer divesting from America? And is there hope for the Black community? And then I'm going to ask you, and Cohen, I want you to answer the same question also, Ken. So is Eric Spencer divesting, and is there hope for the Black community? And I want you guys to parrot the same question.
So for Eric Spencer, yes, I'm gone. It's a wrap for me because